For 24 years, nobody knew who this woman really was. Not the police, not the FBI, not the man she'd married, not even the son she left behind. She had 6 names, 6 birthdays, 6 different life stories, all of them written for her by somebody else. Only one of them was true. This video discusses child abduction, exploitation, and a death that remains in many ways unresolved. Viewer discretion is advised. You are standing in a church parking lot in North Carolina. It's the fall of 1975. The gravel is still warm from the afternoon sun. A woman is loading her kids into an old car, the kind that takes 3 tries to start. A man walks over. He's polite. Almost too polite. He tells her he can see she's struggling. For kids, no husband, not enough money to go around. He says he wants to help. She's tired in a way that goes past sleep. She says yes. Nobody in that parking lot looks like a monster. Nobody ever does. This is an ordinary Sunday. Nothing about it feels like a warning. You just don't know the shape of it yet. Welcome to the final clue. This is exactly the kind of case we exist for. Before we go any further, drop a comment right now and tell us where in the world you're watching from. We read every single one. If you're new here, hit like and subscribe. That's what keeps us digging into cases like this one. Now back to North Carolina, 1975. Her name was Suzanne Marie Savakis. Born September 9, 1969 in Michigan. Her mother, Sandy Chipman, was young when Suzanne came along. Barely out of her teens, married to a man named Clifford who'd just come home from Vietnam. That marriage didn't last. By the time Suzanne was a toddler, it was just her and her mother, and then, soon after, 2 more sisters. Sandy did what a lot of single mothers in the 1970s did. She held on. She moved where the work was. She kept the lights on. By 1975, she was raising 4 kids alone in North Carolina, and the weight of that was starting to show. That's when a man came into her life going by the name Brandon Cleo Williams. Polished, helpful. The kind of man who shows up right when you're too exhausted to ask questions. He wasn't who he said he was. His real name was Franklin Delano Floyd, and he was a fugitive with a violent criminal history. A man who had already served time for the kidnapping and attempted assault of a 4-year-old girl, years before he ever met Sandy Chipman. She married him in 1975. She had no way of knowing what she just signed her family into. Later that year, Sandy was arrested. A bad check, a minor charge, the kind of thing that gets you 30 days, not a life sentence. But it became one. While she sat in jail, Floyd took the children. He dropped 2 of Suzanne's younger sisters at a children's home. He kept Suzanne, 6 years old, the oldest, and he vanished. When Sandy got out, she tried to get her daughter back. She was told there was nothing she could do. Legally, on paper, Floyd was Suzanne's stepfather. He had rights the system recognized. A mother's instinct wasn't enough to override a marriage certificate. She tried to file a missing persons report. She was turned away. Yes, exactly. It slots in right before that block, replacing the plane transition into it. Here's the full stitched sequence so you can see it in place. You are 11 years old, sitting in a classroom in Forest Park, Georgia. It's 1980. The teacher calls the roll. She calls you Sharon. You answer. You always answer. It's the only name you've had for years now, and if you're being honest with yourself, some mornings you have to think for a second before you remember it wasn't always yours. Nobody in that classroom knows your real name is Suzanne. You don't fully remember it yourself. If you're just finding this channel, this is a case that gets harder to sit with the deeper it goes. So before we go further, drop a comment and tell us if you caught any of this story before today. And if you haven't hit subscribe yet, now's the moment. This is the part where the case really starts to unravel. Okay, back to it. Over the next decade, Suzanne Savakis disappeared. Not once, over and over. Floyd kept moving, Texas, Georgia, Arizona, Oklahoma, and every time they landed somewhere new, she got a new name. Sharon Marshall, Tanya Tadlock, Tanya Hughes. Each one erased a little more of the girl who used to be Suzanne. Think about what that means. A child doesn't just lose her mother. She loses her own name, the one thing that's supposed to be hers no matter what happens to her. But here's the uncomfortable truth. To the outside world, she wasn't a missing child. She was just a new kid at school. As Sharon Marshall, she graduated Forest Park Senior High School in Georgia in 1986. Classmates remembered her as bright, upbeat, mature beyond her years. She wanted to be an aerospace engineer. She earned a full scholarship, a real one, Georgia Tech, to make that happen. She never got to use it. During her senior year, she got pregnant. And when she told a friend what came next, it wasn't about the baby. It was 4 words: "Daddy won't let me go to college now." Floyd made her give up the scholarship, made her give up the baby for adoption. Then he moved her to Tampa, gave her yet another name, Tanya Tadlock, and put her to work at a strip club to make money for him. That's the part of this case that sits the wrong way in your stomach. She wasn't hidden in a basement. She was hidden in plain sight. A scholarship student turned stripper, a daughter turned income source. While Floyd controlled nearly every part of her life, and investigators would later confirm, had been sexually abusing her for years. Teachers had pieces of it. Co-workers had pieces of it. Neighbors had pieces of it. Nobody had all of it. And in case after case like this one, that's usually how it works. Not one dramatic missed red flag, but dozens of small, disconnected ones that nobody had reason to add up. By the late 1980s, still living as Tanya, she had a son, Michael. And somewhere in motherhood, something in her started to wake back up. It's 1989, you are 20 years old and you're getting ready for a shift at a strip club in Tampa, checking your face in a cracked mirror under a name that isn't yours. You don't know it yet, but this year is about to take everything that's left. A friend, a home, a name you'd only just gotten used to. You're about to lose all three within a matter of months. Suzanne had a friend. Her name was Cheryl Encameso, 18 years old, a former pageant girl, a co-worker at the club. People who knew her described her as warm, unafraid. Not the kind of person who backed down from anyone. That included Floyd. Co-workers saw them argue. Saw him hit her in the face in a parking lot. And not long after, Cheryl Encameso vanished. Nobody would know what really happened to her for another 6 years. Almost immediately, Floyd and Suzanne's trailer burned to the ground. Arson, investigators would later determine. And the two of them ran, new names again, Clarence and Tanya Dawn Hughes, all the way to New Orleans, where they got married. On paper, a man marrying the daughter he'd raised since she was 5 years old. In that city, she gave birth to a second child, a daughter. Floyd forced her to give that baby up too. They landed, finally, in Oklahoma. Another club. Another new start that wasn't really hers. There she found something rare, someone who told her the truth. A co-worker named Karen Parsley looked at her life and told her to leave. Suzanne's answer tells you everything about what 13 years with this man had done to her. She said if she tried, he would kill her. And her son. He'd even joined the Fraternal Order of Police, not as an officer, just a member, and made sure she knew it. Made sure she understood exactly how far his reach could go if she ran. But by April of 1990, she ran anyway. She'd fallen into a secret relationship with a college student named Kevin Brown. Together they made a plan, take her son Michael and go. They went. Days later, 3 passers-by driving a stretch of highway about 100 miles outside Oklahoma City spotted something on the shoulder of the road. At first they thought it was debris. It was Suzanne. She'd been walking back from a convenience store toward a nearby Motel 6. Groceries scattered across the roadside told investigators that much, when something hit her from behind and kept going. She was rushed to Presbyterian Hospital in Oklahoma City with a severe hematoma at the base of her skull. She died 5 days later. She was 20 years old. And here is where the file goes cold, not because nobody cared, but because nobody knew who to care about. The hospital only knew her as Tanya Hughes. That was the name on her marriage license, the name on her son's birth certificate, the only name Oklahoma had ever given her. Her real name, Suzanne Marie Savakis, wouldn't surface for another 24 years. 4 years after Suzanne died, the man everyone knew as her husband came back into the story, for her son. Michael was 6 now, living with a foster couple, Ernest and Merle Bean, who loved him enough that they were partway through adopting him. On September 12, 1994, Floyd walked into Indian Meridian Elementary School in Choctaw, Oklahoma. He held the principal at gunpoint, handcuffed him to a tree, and walked out with Michael. For 2 months, nobody could find either of them. When Floyd was finally arrested in Louisville, Kentucky, he was alone. He wouldn't say what happened to the boy. Here is the uncomfortable truth about how this case finally started to move. It wasn't a confession that cracked it open. It was a truck. Floyd had stolen a pickup, driven it into Texas, and abandoned it. Months later, a mechanic bought that truck secondhand and found an envelope taped inside it. 97 photographs. Some showed a young woman bound and beaten. Investigators would eventually match her to Cheryl Encameso, the co-worker who'd vanished back in 1989. Other photos in that same envelope documented years of abuse against a child investigators would later confirm was Suzanne, going back to when she was as young as 4. That envelope is what finally connected every alias, every state, every fake name back to one man. But Tanya Hughes, The woman who died on that highway in 1990 was still officially nobody. No birth certificate. No history before 1989. A woman-shaped hole in the record. In 2013, the FBI's Oklahoma City field office reopened her file as a cold case. Agent Scott Lobb spent hours with Floyd in prison and eventually got something usable. Floyd mentioned, almost offhandedly, a marriage in North Carolina back in 1974, under a name he'd used before, Brandon C. Williams, to a woman who had 3 daughters. That's a small detail. But in an investigation like this, small details are everything. Agents cross-referenced that marriage against court records. They found the woman, Sandy Chipman. They found her oldest daughter's name, Suzanne Marie Savakis, born September 9, 1969. Then they ran the DNA. In 2014 it came back. Tanya Hughes, the woman buried under a name that was never hers, was Suzanne Marie Savakis. The little girl taken from a church parking lot in 1975. Found, finally, 39 years later. Confirmed, finally, 24 years after her death. That same year, in a jailhouse interview, Floyd confessed to something even harder to hear. He told agents he'd shot Michael twice in the back of the head the day he took him, and buried him near the Oklahoma-Texas border. Michael has never been found. Her name was Suzanne Marie Savakis. She was the girl who stood up for the kids other kids picked on. The one voted likely to actually make it out, gifted program JROTC, a full scholarship to study aerospace engineering at Georgia Tech. The friend who, classmates said, brought light into rooms other people found dark. She was also a mother twice over, to children she was forced to give away, and once more to a son she died trying to save. Franklin Delano Floyd was convicted of Cheryl and Camesso's murder in 2002 and sentenced to death. He was never charged in Suzanne's death or in Michael's, even after confessing to it. He died in prison of natural causes in January 2023, 79 years old. The execution he was sentenced to never carried out. In 2017, her headstone was finally changed to carry her real name. And 2 years before that, her younger brother, given up for adoption the same day Floyd took her, got his own answer through a DNA test of his own, 44 years after he'd lost a sister he never knew he had. 2 pieces of this family found their way back to the truth, decades apart. If someone in your life seems controlled, isolated, or afraid to leave a relationship, trust that instinct. Reach out. Say something. Her name was Suzanne Marie Savakis. Now everyone knows it. If this case stayed with you, hit like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.